stuff, but when it was
section 2, right?
oh, when we were anytime I was on TV, we would be page 3 of the TV guide or page 5 of the TV guide, plus we'd be in the yellow pages, right? And the ads in the TV guide did pretty well. The ads in the TV guide when we were on television did very well. Yellow pages, other than a few peak times, I was always disgusted with it, except that when I was on TV, we could track down a lot of the info calls came from, they saw the infomercial, looked us up in the yellow pages, and I didn't want to have a line listing unless some other guy have a half-page ad while I had driven the traffic to the yellow pages. I also knew, by the way, and I didn't care, but I also knew every time we were on TV in the yellow pages, every other martial arts school in town did much better, right? So it's a fallacy to be thinking about the other schools as competition. What you've got to recognize is if somebody's making a lot of headway on marketing in their area, they're helping you. And if you're making a lot of headway in your marketing, you're helping them. And what we're trying to do is expand the market, not get in a pissing match with others.
I was amazed. Not too long ago, I decided I was going to cut out yellowpages.com.
Yep.
Right? And I called them up, and of course, I found out that the price is always negotiable.
Sure.
So when I was going to cancel, they really gave me...
Oh, deal.
Well, they gave me like 3 times as much stuff for less money.
Right.
And then we went to crazyegg.com, put that on our website, and I found out that over 30% of my calls came from Yellow Pages.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh. And I was going to get rid of it. But I didn't know, because when you asked them, they didn't say, oh, I just looked you up on Google.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did, but it was through Yellow Pages' site that got me there.
Well, when we get to talking about reputation management, yellowpage.com is one of the conversations. Adam, who was going to be here, I mentioned that's what his company does. And that's one of the ones he focuses on. Not because they go to yellowpages.com, but when they go Google the subject, if you have enough testimonials and enough advertising and stuff, it shows up high in the search listings. And so now they find you through that. And it's another way of dominating the search engine listings, because if you've got your website and a couple of alternative websites, your Google Local Plus pages show up, and then you have the Yellow Pages listing of you, and then you have some of the other listings like the Yelp reviews of you and so forth, is really you can have multiple listings on the same page, but it's not just your website, it's other people's website recommending you, and that's where you get that synergy going on. Did everybody get that? I mean, that's an important distinction right there. So far, so good? Is everybody following this? Now, what I want to tell you is that, again, Toby and I end up, especially with the one-on-one calls, with you guys and with the Inner Circle and Peak Performers who weren't able to make it here for whatever reason, really getting a good insight in what you're doing well and what you're doing poorly, right? And I said to Toby before when we were putting together an agenda, I have yet to see anybody who does a good job of follow-up. Almost everybody drops a lead way too early. Okay? And by the way, I'm talking about some of you guys who are multi-million-dollar operations, right? Is almost everybody does a bad job following up with an interested person. Okay? And what I get a lot is I get questions about doing direct mail or other media. But what almost always the question about is how to get in front of new people all the time, and how to go to broadcast to as many people as possible, and how to spread your message to as many people as humanly possible. See, that's the way that almost all of us think naturally. Does that make sense? But what's happening in reality is you've got 1,500 new leads this summer. If you were doing a good job of that going back 3 or 4 years, let's say you've got 5,000. Now, some of those have moved to New Delhi, right? Some of them aren't going to be in a 3 or 5 mile radius of your school anymore. And so obviously that's a bad lead, right? Some of them are in fact broke and will always be broke. Hard to tell. But other than that, you have people who've raised their hands at least a little bit, right? And that can be they went and researched you online and they opted into your website. That's about as weak a lead as we ever have. Or they came into a buddy event at your school with a friend who's a student, or they came into a birthday party, or they came into a pizza party, or you sent them a direct mail piece and they called you and never came in for an intro, or they came into an intro and didn't enroll, or they enrolled for a year, dropped out in 6 months, and you haven't seen them again. See, you should think of everybody who's ever dropped out as also being a warm lead, right? And then what we do is we're constantly out trying to look for new people, rather than taking people that we already know are at least a little bit interested and plussing and plussing and following up, right? And there's no magic to this number, but think of it just from the way you think about it. You're much better off to spend $20 following up with a warm lead than to spend 50 cents with somebody who's only a suspect. And suspect, I mean, they make the right income level, they live the right distance from the school. If you're in the kids market, they have a child that's 4 to 12 years old. If you're in the adult market, they're 32-year-old adult male college educated, right? You're much better off to spend $20 with somebody who fits that list, plus they raise their hand at some time, right? The best direct mail you're ever going to do to a cold list. See, you've got big national advertisers who are getting rich on a formula of getting 1/2 of 1% return. Right? Think about that for a second. So if you manage to hit it out of the park and you got 1% return, so for every 100 you mailed, you got one that responded, you're doing better than a lot of multi-million-dollar direct response advertisers with million-dollar copywriters. Okay? So if you manage to do that, how much better would you do if they were already interested? You see what I'm saying? Okay? And so the number one thing I see is either one of two things. And I don't mean this to not be very scientific, but you're either not doing enough stuff from a marketing standpoint, or you're not following up with the ones that raise their hand very effectively and aggressively. See, that's problem one and problem two. I think I can say with great certainty that there's nobody in the room that doesn't have both problems. One, you're not doing enough stuff. Two is once they're interested, you don't follow up enough and spend enough money on them. Would anybody disagree? Anybody think you've got plenty of stuff going on? Anybody think you follow up with them to the point that they're practically threatening to sue you and put you in jail because they're tired of hearing from you? Right? See, that's the deal. So we've got to look at this and solve these two primary things. Again, restating the obvious, it's the Parthenon, right? But you got to do enough stuff, and you got to follow up. Now, the follow-up side, Toby, how am I doing on agenda? I'm fine? Okay. There you go. Okay. Everybody take a note that I actually asked that question for the first time in my life. What?
By the way, just as a note, if we can break right around 12:15, 12:30,
Yeah.
they have a big group downstairs that will probably dominate the restaurant at 2. So if we can get them in there around 12:30.
Oh, so we want to break an hour earlier than we thought.
Between 12 and 12:30, we'll be able to get everybody in and out.
Okay. Okay, good. So that's good information. So we either have the wait 2 hours to get served or wait 5 minutes to get served. Phenomenal. Okay. But so again, scientific terms here. Got to follow up with them more. Got to do more stuff, right? Now, let's talk first about follow up, and then we'll go back to stuff. On the follow up, again, I don't want to make this sound contradictory. The first thing is every lead has a very short half-life. What I mean by that is if I'm in a movie theater on Saturday afternoon and I wait till Tuesday afternoon to telephone call, is they forgot I exist, right? Our rule of thumb had always been a weekend event, we're putting people on the phone Sunday night, 7 p.m. And by the way, statistically, 7 p.m. Sunday nights when they're most likely to be pissed off that you're interrupting their family TV time and dinner, but it's when they're most likely to be home and answer the phone. Okay? So, first on follow-up is it has to be immediate. If you have a weekend event, whatever it is, but let's use movie theaters as an example. If I'm generating leads on Friday, my ideal scenario is I've got somebody over there hand addressing little follow-up postcards or letters that go to the post office Friday night. So in my ideal world, they get it in the mail Saturday or Monday at the latest. Okay? I also have a system over here, whatever it might be, but as the leads are coming up Friday, they're getting it was a great to meet you text. So this weekend they go to Plains, and driving home, the phone beeps, and on the way in the door they look at it, and it's the karate guy, the martial arts guy they met at the theater saying, hey, it was great to meet you, really look forward to seeing you Monday night. See, that would be my ideal world. Then I go sit down on my laptop and log in, and I've got an email from you. And by the way, the video, the text has a link to a little video, and the email has a link to a little video, right? But we'll get more into the depth of this. But that's how immediate, how urgent I want the lead follow-up to be, right? By the way, there's a good book. It's by a Harvard Business School professor called The Power of Urgency. And so I'd recommend you pick it up. But first with lead follow-up is urgency. I want to follow up like right the hell now. I don't wait till next week sometime, right? With Dave, I mentioned he had hurt his neck. I volunteered, did a couple staff meetings for him to try to get all of his guys doing something marketing-wise. And so we had a little staff meeting by teleconference on Monday. And by Thursday that same week, they were having summer camps. And this is maybe an idea for you if you're not doing it, Paul, is they had bring your buddy to summer camp. And they had, I think, 30 kids in the summer camp, and they had 15 buddies. So they had 15 buddies all day on Thursday there for the summer camp as a buddy day at the summer camp, right? And so now I'm talking to the staff on Thursday, and and rule number one with staff is, if at all possible, get it to be their idea, right? See, I could be doing a staff training for him, and I can give them the list of 20 things they should be doing. What are they going to do? Nothing. Or we can have them come up with a list of 20 ideas, have them prioritize it, help them a little bit with thinking about how to work it, give them a few ideas, and then it's their idea and they go implement. Does that make sense? And that's not being manipulative, it's just human nature, right? But so we're having the conversation, and I say, well, what are you going to do with these 15 people who are in the school right now? And the gal who is the sharpest of the group says, well, maybe we should, obviously we've got names and phone numbers, but probably wait a couple days, call, see how they liked it, talk to the parents, maybe you're offer them to come into a class or something. And my response was, well, they're right there right now, right? Yeah. Do you know any parent who drops their kid off at a summer camp and doesn't answer their cell phone? Think about it for a second. You got your 7-year-old at a summer camp. The summer camp calls. Are you going to answer your phone? Right? I said, well, if it were me, I'd call all the moms on their cell phone and say, hi, Ms. Smith, just want to check in. Billy's having a great time down here. Wanted to give you some feedback on how he's doing. How many of them are you going to get hold of? All of them. Right? How many are you going to get hold of 3 days from now? Yeah, 10, 20%, right? So they're there right now. Grab Billy over, call mom, tell how great Billy's doing, let her talk to Billy for a second, and then schedule a follow-up appointment like right the hell now. Oh, okay. And also, by the way, let's take a little picture of Billy and with the instructors, and let's address a little personal card. Let's send the picture of Billy with the instructors, and let's put a stamp on it so it goes to the post office by 3 so they get it in their house tomorrow. See, now that's a little more urgent than people normally think of, right? And by the way, on the way home, when they pick Billy up at 5, send him a text message on the way home. Really enjoyed having Billy today. Looking forward to seeing him tomorrow night at that class at 7, right? See, what do you get? It's front of mind. They're thinking about it. It's high level of urgency, right? And you don't then collect leads and then wait, right? And again, take the example, Bill and Amanda and Steve have been at movie theaters this summer. You're at the movie theater. Somebody says, well, here's our information, but I got to talk to my wife or I got to talk to my husband, figure out, I'm going to be out of town next week, find out when he or she can come in. Well, the next question is, tentatively, when do you think would be best for her schedule? We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Well, I know she works Monday. You think Tuesday or Wednesday would be better? Probably, right? I want tentative probably, right? But what's the next thing? Well, great. When are you guys going to see Mom? Oh, well, after the movie, we're meeting for dinner. Oh, fantastic. Well, it's 2 o'clock now. Movie's over at 5. They're going to dinner at 6. What do I want? I want to call to them at 6 and a text message. Bill, I just wanted to follow up, see if you guys are connected yet so we can schedule the appointment, right? Because, see, like they remember talking to you. And with a little bit of luck, they have the stuff you gave them in hand and you kind of walked it into dinner. Now, that doesn't usually happen, right? Usually, as soon as they watch the movie, they forgot about you, which is why I also want to go, well, he's going to come out of that theater. Let's make sure we give him another copy. And let's remind them, right? But we all know that doesn't always happen. But I want to have that kind of urgency of follow-up. Does that make sense to everybody? And again, we're going to be talking about a lot of this electronically. But it's so important to, one, have immediacy and urgency. Now, here's the contradiction. Yes, sir.
So what you just described,
right?
If you had 20 kids in a class, whatever, that's an enormous amount of work as far as
20?
To follow up on all that.
We have different definitions of enormous, but okay. I had 150 of them. That would,
well, whatever.
Okay, yeah, no.
To track it and to see what was happened with each person.
Right.
How do you manage all that? How do you keep track of which mother you actually called and text to, or which email went out, and?
Well, if it was a summer camp scenario, that's an easy one because I've got like another 4 hours, right? So in the summer camp scenario, I go get Billy, and I've got the piece of paper that goes with Billy, and I've put him into the software over here so automated stuff starts to happen. But I get Billy, I call Mom, I let Mom talk to Billy, I make an appointment, I make a note on the paper, and I got this one's done, right? And I just do that over and over and over again, right? So now I got a buddy day that's 45 minutes with 45 kids. Now that's more difficult. But in that case, I'm trying to intercept them on the way in the front door. And then I know the ones that I didn't manage to pull that off. So now I'm pulling the kids that I didn't intercept and parents I'm pulling the kids whose parents I know are there. So now I'm going to go talk to the parents who are there that I didn't intercept yet. And then, bless you, then I'm going to pull the kids whose parents aren't there and I'm going to call their cell phone because, again, I just went with Susie Jones' neighbor down to this karate thing. I'll probably answer my cell phone because the kid's with somebody else. So then I do that. And then the ones I haven't gotten hold of yet, I follow him out to the car and do it. Which is also why, see, what a lot of us try to do is, I'm going to be the talent, right? So I'm doing all the exciting stuff, and I'm doing all the audience, and I'm also trying to make sure that everything was done, and I'm trying to make sure I made appointments, and I'm trying to call the parents. Well, see, that doesn't work, right? And if anything, you as the owner-operator need to be the orchestrator, and then you have the person out there who's the talent, who's really doing this stuff, and see, that can usually be like a, charismatic teenager. And then I want the program director following up on that stuff, and then I'm beating them to death, of how many are out there, great, how many of you gotten hold of these, what about those, well, okay, what can I do to help, okay, I'll go talk to them, I want to be doing that. Does that make sense? You got me worked up.
Marty, technology-wise, we'll walk through that later.
Yeah.
The technology to track it all.
Yes.
Yeah, the automated stuff.
Yeah, but I think the other simple part is, you know, you have the slips under a rock.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
every day you look through the slips, you know, and
Yeah.
you make little notes on the back of the slips, what action happened on what day.
But see, what we have a tendency to prioritize. You know, I mean, it's like the old TV show MASH, right? I mean, they're doing triage on the way in.
Yeah.
We have a tendency to prioritize wrong, right? So we have a tendency to prioritize oldest to newest, start at the bottom. With student retention, you call the guy who missed the Tuesday at 6 o'clock class, not the one who's been gone 5 weeks as first priority, right? With leads, you talk to the one who's in your face. Make sure you chase him to the parking lot to get mom, even if you metaphorically have to have your foot under the back tire to keep her from driving off before you get the appointment, right? And from a staff training perspective, it's the hardest thing to instill. The only way to do it is through example and through coercion and through frantic activity and through beating them over the head, right? And if you don't occasionally have a staff member that you piss off by hovering too much and slapping them around and pointing them in that direction and pointing them in that direction, you haven't gotten the attitude about it, right? So you've really got to get the point across to them that it's urgent, right? It's urgent, it's important, God damn it, we got to do it right now, right? And if that's jump up and down and scream and yell and your face gets red and you throw things, so be it, right? But you've got to not be afraid to be at that point. And again, I mean, you know, that example, 45 are there and you've got a 45-minute class and you're trying to corral them on the way and corral them on the way back out. See, you could do that with 4,500 people. It's a matter of having systems and enough human beings to do it, right? So it's just the system. So if you've got a human being that's dedicated to making an appointment before they get in the door. I mean, we've had events where, you know, we'll put tables up to block the entrance, have almost like a turnstile, have a human being standing there, and they don't get in the door before they've made an appointment. And then when Joey came with Billy and Mom is driving off, or Mom isn't even going to be here, we're pulling Billy aside and calling Mom to make an appointment right then and there. And then you end up with 95% of them having an appointment before they even get into the school, right? But what doesn't work is 45 kids. Okay, everybody who had a good time. Good. If you'd like to come back on Tuesday, come over here. See, in most of your staff, that's the way they'll do it. If you'd like to come back next time, come over here and we'll schedule a time for you. Well, what they all do is they take the piece of paper and say, I'll call back later, and you never hear from them again, right? So you've got to force it and bottleneck and to get it to happen. Does that make sense? Yes. We did that one time. Don, you were there. It's when we had the what's his name? The green, blue ninja, Power Ranger. In 4 days, we did it with 480 that were paying us $99, and just had the system set up. And we took like 10 people to each location and bottlenecked it, and had the bottleneck at the back door and the bottleneck at the front door, and funneled them through. And usually it was like 70 or 90 at a shot that we were funneling through, and about 75% of them were writing us a check or giving us a credit card. So.
That's really interesting. This last year, I've been looking at interactive booths at big events, and a lot of major companies. Well, Kaiser Permanente, this big thing at the Cherry Creek Festival. In order to get in and do any of the activities, you had to go over to the iPad, enter in your, contact information, and then they'd stamp you. They wouldn't let you do anything else until there were 3 dedicated people.
Yeah.
There were people patrolling.
Right.
You can't get in that line, because we tried getting in the line, because, I didn't want to go fill out the information. So,
Right.
And I asked those meetings all last week with a major retailer, and they do contests every week. But in order to participate in the contest in the store, you have to give them their information. And so I think that a lot of it is we've done poorly in the past was we never let them in the door.
Right.
Before so I don't think it should be to get out. I think it should be to get in.
To get in, absolutely. Well, always. Well, and the only time is to get out is there was some reason why I didn't get the information right then. But usually what that is, like with kids, it's Billy brought his 2 friends. And now what I've got to do is I've got to call Mom while Billy is in my presence. And I walk Billy over to the office and I let Mom talk to Billy and I talk to Billy, and if Billy has his own cell phone, you have Billy call Mom and have me talk to her, right? I mean, so because she's going to answer the phone from her from her kid, right? So
the lesson is that these major companies, these big entities, realize that they've been having participants for years and
right.
never got any capture.
Never got anything from it, yeah.
So now they're very organized in how they do that. So.
Well, and by the way, the new technology, again, what Toby and I are both saying is a piece of paper and a rock works just as well. But I mean, you can go out to an event and have 10 iPads, and you have the web form. It's just a web form, so you just pull up the web form, and they can be entering them on the spot. And there's companies who make like the little holders where you can lock it in, so you can have the little table, and you can have 10 different people with a little Apple keyboard data entering it. All that stuff is doable, and depending upon the size of the event and what you're doing, perhaps you should go that direction, right? What we've been doing is sort of the opposite, which is they fill out a piece of paper, but there's somebody over here entering it online, in real time. So now all the automated stuff is happening, but also all the human stuff is happening. Just don't think that the automation replaces the human. It enhances, it doesn't replace. Does that make sense?
Well, and there has to be a mechanism for the human to interact with the other.
Right.
So that they know where it is. I like Marty's question. It's a great question because that's what happens is once you throw the data into the system and you can't visibly see the data.
Right.
It's like it doesn't exist.
Yes.
But the white sheet of paper under the rock,
Mm-hmm.
you can't walk by that too many times without at least hoping somebody will pick it up.
Right. Yeah. Well, and that's right. I mean, so you've got to be very careful about not letting it go into software and disappear, right? Because the piece of direct mail and a human doing outbound telemarketing both are essential. So, and again, frankly, a school that wasn't doing enough traffic, I mean, you could probably justify you have somebody and they get in their car and they organize it by route and they go show up on people's doors, knock on their door and leave a package at the door or something like that. You guys heard the story at the Sterling location we were there, right? Yeah. I mean, that's for upgrades. But they're sending some teenager out in a ninja costume that goes and leaves the basket, with the DVD and the Gatorade and the popcorn on their door and ringing the doorbell and the ninja's running off, right? And I think the latest iteration is they're videotaping the ninja delivering the package and then emailing them and texting them. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But see, the next iteration of that is, hell, just show up on the damn doorstep. And again, you're much better off to be talking to a human being than dealing with a computer, right? So the more that you're out talking to human beings and the more you can find the right places to be talking to human beings, you've got to prioritize that. But again, that doesn't mean all the automation isn't good. And again, it's just like we talk about with Facebook. Something like Facebook now doesn't have depth, it has reach, right? So sequential follow-up on an existing lead or talking to 20 women who get together for the moms meeting, that has a lot of depth because you're able to get into an in-depth conversation, you're able to build rapport, build a relationship and so forth. The same person posting it to her 500 friends, some of whom she hasn't seen since she was in 5th grade, it's kind of interesting. And it doesn't mean you shouldn't utilize it, but it's not much depth. Okay? Questions or thoughts about all this so far? Is it making sense? Okay. So now let's expand here on Parthenon. Who here has had the biggest home run the last 90 days with a buddy event, referral event? Who's had your best results from referrals? Nobody. Okay, well that's that points out that it has to be a major topic for us. Who's had their best results last 90 days from online? Online marketing, not just website. Yeah, you have. Give us, David, everybody, the sense of what's working well for you online.
Pay-per-click is working really well, and our SEO is okay.
Okay. And essentially they're just, opposite sides of the same coin. SEO is essentially the same thing as pay-per-click, except you're working for it rather than you're buying it. SEO is more valuable generally because people respond better to organic listings than they do paid search. But both are worthwhile. The nice thing about pay-per-click is you can fully control it. The nice thing about organic is that it's really more valuable once you're solid, but then it changes, right? Who's had their best results with some kind of media advertising? Either newspaper or with buying some kind of media, TV. Okay. Who's had their best results with some kind of couponing? Groupon, Living Social, or Valpak, something like that?
Living Social.
Living Social? What have you done with Living Social recently?
Put out a deal for 30 days, a free form.
Yeah.
And actually I had to harass Living Social for a while.
Right.
Was do it because they said we don't do karate schools, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And they finally let us do it, and it worked really well. And they have until October 12th to cash it in and get their money.
Right. How many purchased?
How many people? We got about 45 people.
Okay. Everybody hear that dynamic? Living Social says to them, kids karate, regular martial arts doesn't work, which generally they're right. Groupon will say the same thing. But in this case, she got 45 of them. And what was the offer?
It was 1 month plus. So it's just 1 month plus uniform.
For how much?
Oh, I see. $39 as I recall.
$39.
Something there.
Okay. And they keep what, half or 60% or something like that?
Actually, surprisingly, I think they only kept 40%.
40%. Okay. Okay. So 60% to you, 40% to them, and then they have some reserve for cash, or whatever. Okay. Well, that's good. The Sterling School, we're experimenting right now with Groupon. He's experimenting with birthday parties, pizza parties, and they're doing like 4 different offers, but experimenting with selling them a pizza party and selling them a birthday party. It'll be interesting to see how that works. Okay. Has anybody had any big results last 90 days from community outreach activities, community events?
That's what we do mostly.
Okay. What type of events?
Like festivals, fairs, like there's like local celebrations. The university by our house has like 3 times a year like street fairs for the students and their parents and things like that. We just have a traditional booth, with some. We used to like hand out flyers to people, and we quit doing that. Like
Yeah.
one time we ran out of flyers, and so we told people like they'd ask for a flyer, so we don't have it, but
Right.
if you want to take advantage, you have to set the appointment. We made like 3 times as many appointments in an hour as we'd made the entire day. So we
Yeah.
said like we don't even bring flyers anymore. We
Right.
just try to set the appointments right there.
Yeah. The only way you do flyers is if they offer to stuff them in every bag, and there's going to be 5,000 they're going to stuff or something like that. You do want a package that you send them with, right? So when they make an appointment, you have the package you send them with, and it says what time their appointment is and so forth, so they have something tangible.
We don't have anything tangible. We just give them like a card, like how
Yeah.
you like a doctor, your
Right.
appointment is set for this time. It probably would
Yeah.
be a good idea to have some kind of like just a DVD or something to go with it.
Yeah, I would do something tangible to send them with, but then you can also text them a video link, and you email them a video link, all that stuff. Okay, so fairs, carnivals, and so forth. You've had a lot of traffic with movie theater leads.
Over the last 3 months, most of our, probably 90% of our growth has come from setting up booths and doing the community outreach stuff. And in the beginning, it went well, and then we kind of hit a slump, and then we changed our own system for how we did it.
Uh-huh.
And things have really turned around again.
What did you change?
We have a 3-man system where you have, like one person is doing the talking.
Yeah.
So the parents come up with the kid.
Right.
Feed the kid off to one of the other staff members who takes him through. We have a ninja throwing star game so that they're entertaining them.
Yeah.
So they do the ninja throwing star game, and then they take them over and let them spin the prize wheel.
Yeah.
And then we have a little chair, and then they put a tattoo, like one of our school tattoos on
Yeah.
the kid.
Yeah.
Which gives the talker enough time
Sure.
to, engage the parents and make the deal.
Absolutely. It always seems like the spin wheel prize thing is an important piece. Also always seems like having somebody who stops their momentum and gets them redirected to the booth is useful, right?
Even the
No.
You're gonna be in charge of entertaining kids, you don't allow the staff in the booth to
Right.
go out engaging and feeding people,
Yeah.
feeding them in.
This is a few years ago, but one of the most successful that when I owned all the schools that we did was a big scout show. And I mean, we knew there was going to be 5,000 7-year-olds there. So we set up Swain mats. And we had a big corner booth, but there was tables along here, and then there was a classroom. And then there were tables over here. And then we had a person down at that end of the aisle, a person down at this end of the aisle, directing people over to it. Then we had people out here talking to the parents, and we had instructors over there teaching class. So we would bring them in, getting the parents to fill stuff out while their kid did a little introductory class. And then on the tables, we had a TV facing that way to get their attention, and a TV facing that way to get their attention. And probably the most important component was the person down at that end in the uniform, the person down at that end in the uniform to point people and get them to come over to the booth, right? So it's all those different components. Our Fresno school, which, I mean, I don't know how many leads they generate a month, but a lot. Face painting has been their big deal. So they've been doing, they taught like all the teenagers how to face paint, gave them the template, and part of the face painting is their way to get into like the nonprofit shows and stuff, is they provide a face painter, but then that's been stopping traffic as well.
I had a question, as far as like the wheel, I know
Yeah.
that I've seen your booths.
Right.
And you guys do that. And a lot of the events we go to, there's like 5 other martial arts schools
Mhm.
there, as well as like gymnastics and dance.
Right.
They all have wheels.
Really?
Yeah, I mean,
So you-
every table. And so like
You're surrounded with enlightened people.
Yeah,
That's
so-
unusual.
So the thing is that we haven't got a wheel. Like
Yeah.
we're trying to think of like some other way to engage with
Right.
people. What my wife decided is that we would just give away a banana. Just like we just get like a whole pile of bananas and we just hand them to people as they walk by, and then people will stop and ask like, why are you handing out bananas? I was just promoting healthy life and martial arts and just like in some way to engage them in conversation. But do you think that like we're missing the ball by not having a wheel even though everybody else does, or is it smart to kind of to change it up, or is it just so valuable? I mean, part of me is like, if everyone else is doing it, maybe it's successful and we should too, but then I want to kind of, I don't know, I just don't want to be surrounded like another wheel in the sea of wheels.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think you have a couple of things. One is, anytime you go to an event, you want to look at the booths where there's a line of people forming, and versus the booth where there's somebody standing behind the table hoping that somebody's going to talk to them, right? And what I like I took my kids to a little fair thing up in Evergreen, and the only one in the entire place, other than the person selling, cotton candy, that had a line was the State Farm guy. And the State Farm guy had the prize wheel and a line up to spin the prize wheel, and then they were giving out little things. And the banana thing isn't bad at all. I was somebody who did real well at trade shows would go get 1,000 crisp new dollar bills and would give away dollar bills. And it was it was the cheapest thing they could come up with, right? But there's all kinds of ways to do prizes and games without it being a spin wheel, right? So you could go do a board and you throw bean bags at it. You've seen some of them do that. And then you have different prizes. I think you're right in that I would try to come up with something that looks more interesting and different.
I just picked up the ninja throwing star game, and I was just like
Yeah.
combining those in my head, thinking maybe like if they throw a ninja star and hit a prize or something like that.
Yeah,
That's what we do, yeah, we use the suction cup once.
yeah.
I'd like to see a 6-foot banana costume.
I've seen those. Who does that?
We had a guy
Jamba? Yeah.
wear a gorilla suit one time and hand out the bananas, and that worked really well. Actually, this guy right here was the breakdancing gorilla.
Yeah. You can never underestimate, and again, depending upon which market you're targeting, but you can never underestimate the value of the Ninja Turtle costume, the Power Ranger costume, the Kung Fu Panda costume, the whatever it is, or the I guess this I guess the superhero clash this summer is between Superman and Iron Man because Wolverine crashed and burned. But Iron Man in a jiu-jitsu outfit out there. I mean, everybody would want to get a picture with Iron Man, right? So, and usually you can buy those things for $100 or something like that. So, you can never underestimate the value of that. And I've seen a whole. Every industry is like this, but there's some portion of every industry, which is most of them, who are like purists at the thing they do, and they think that marketing gimmickry is like bad, right? And so you always see, the guys who are railing against doing birthday parties in the school, oh my God, or who are railing against, one of these idiots told me to, dress up in a Power Ranger costume. I got to tell you, over the years, we've done every possible costume. I've never worn any of them. None of them would ever fit me. We've always had some poor schlep 15-year-old who got volunteered who wore the costume. So I'm not suggesting you have to wear any goddamn costume. But all of that stuff works really well, right? If you look at what a lot of the big movies are doing now, right? Look at what they're doing. The snail movie, Turbo, they had a full-size snail in the thing. That for some reason the theaters blocked it off, but the first thing my 5-year-old did was go sit on the top of the snail and want a picture, right? And so, so a lot of them, it's, you stick your head through and you're taking a picture as the character, or there's it's those experiment. What's that?
Despicable Me was right next to the snail.
Yeah, exactly. So it's doing stuff like that gets attention, but if there's any even tangential tie to it, right? It's always nice to figure out some tie. And by the way, with the bananas, I would at least buy a sticker that was the school sticker on there and stick it on the banana. And, that was the thing they did with the dollar bills is they had a stamp, and they would stamp the dollar bill, and they'd staple a card to it, and, at least they had something that they were going away with, right? Who else has had something that's been your big hit? Yeah, go ahead.
The wheel, I think the other thing that a bunch of our guys have done that was just a big raffle basket, a big basket.
Yes.
Because that pre-assumes that you're filling the form out.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So you just have the big banner that we're giving away a free Caribbean vacation or whatever.
Right.
And they're just filling the thing out to register for vacation. And then, of course, you're calling them up a day later and said, hey, congratulations, you won. And
You won second prize. Yeah. Fortunately, you won second prize. But yeah, there's all kinds of iterations you can do with that, right? And I think you're right. If you're in a place where there's 5 booths in a row and they're all doing the same damn thing, you do something different, right? Always do something different. And it's a pretty good marketing premise, by the way. It's been what I've lived on forever, which is, whatever everybody else does, do the opposite, right? But we know that the contest thing works, right? So you can do the Ninja Stars, you could do the Beanbag. Hell, you could have a booth where you have 3 different games and contests and prizes and things that they do. It's how do you stand out? How do you be different? How do you be better? But at the same time, do what we know works, which is they like to queue up and play the game and try to win the prize.
We've tried so many of those other alternatives and not do the wheel. I don't know why we put it off because we had a bad wheel that didn't work. It was used. We finally got a good wheel. And that's how I got all these leads.
Yeah.
All these leads. I was giving away pizza and birthday parties right and left. My goal is to give away 100 of them by the end of the summer. Okay?
Yeah.
Take it from there.
Yeah, and
it's really improved it because they just like to come to the darn wheel. We also have our karate kids doing our, a little kata here, a little set there, and those kids are out there.
Yeah.
Suzanne, and bring them right over and then taking them from there.
Yeah. And see, don't discount that. There was somebody, I forget the name, in Baltimore, and he's doing a startup. But he was one of these guys that had the 20 reasons why anything you told him wouldn't work before he did it. And it was all like Maryland, suburban Baltimore, people don't do that because, all of which is complete BS, right? But he was one of those kind of guys. And then he went and did the prize wheel thing once, and it didn't work for him. So he didn't say that didn't work, but he's really proud he had invented this game. He threw this, and there's a little water over there, but it was, I never understood what the hell it was. He sent me a video, and I still didn't understand what it was, right?
9 steps. It took we did 4 things.
Yeah. And it was like, well, don't reinvent the damn wheel, you know, just do it, right? And, you know, you can buy the little prize wheel for $19 from Oriental Trading or yeah. The one that Jeff Smith's been using is what, $280 or something like that. But I mean, it's, you know,
The one we used at the thing was like 80,
yeah,
and it's 3 feet across, 36 inches.
yeah, so.
Prizewheel.com or just Amazon.com, and they have a bunch of them.
Yeah. So but I agree that if you're in an environment where everybody is doing that, figure out something in addition or a little different to stand out, right? But don't fall to. See, the nice thing about the wheel is I can have the wheel here where he's at. I can hear it spinning, and there's a click where it's like a slot machine, right? I mean, you know, if you go to Vegas, the slot machines that don't have a handle, that you push a button, all still sound like slot machines, right? So, you know, and there's nothing spinning, right? It's all electronic, but they still have the sound. Why do they have the sound? You know, it gets click whir, and I want to like win something, right? So you got to make sure you don't lose that part of the appeal, right? Does that make sense? And again, it's got to be from a distance. They go, oh wow, I get to throw the beanbag thing, and if I do that, I win a prize. You know, I mean, if you go to any amusement park where they have games, right? Think about what the standards are. Pop the balloon, you know, spray the gun, and the thing goes up. You know, you got all those standards. So there's things that people are going to like look at it and know what it is, and then there are things if they have to guess at it, they're going to keep going, right? So, yes, ma'am.
So one of my next things is I was thinking about doing a bounce house so the kids could be jumping and I could be talking to the parents.
Yes.
They'd have to sign the waiver, so I have all their information.
Yeah.
Have you had any success? I was a little nervous about liability and them bumping into each other. That's the only reason I haven't done that yet.
The only thing you have to worry about that is making sure it's tied down so it doesn't blow away. There's been a couple of those happen recently. No, just a few months ago. Somebody had the bounce house and it blew like 20 feet, right? I mean, end over end with kids in it, right? I had at my house, our trampoline blew halfway across the property. Now, luckily, no kids were on it, but, you know, I mean, they wouldn't weigh enough to have kept that from happening. But other than that, there was, we have to follow up with them, but there's a supplier that does martial arts stuff, and he does a bounce house that looks like a martial arts dojo. Okay, seriously. And it was $3,000 or something like that, right? And you know, and you can go to Costco and buy the castle thing for like $800,000. I mean, they're not very expensive. Oh yeah. You can get the full. I've got one in my garage.
You said
800 or 1,000. Not 800,000. 800 or 1,000. Okay. Yeah. But this guy has like martial arts guy kicking figure blow up thing, which Steve Doyen, when I was up at here when we were at West Point, we went by his school. He had that permanently. It was cool. He had that permanently mounted outside the school. So it was a full size. I mean, like 8. What would you say? 15 feet? 12 or 8. Well, if you think it's 12 feet, it must be 10. But I'd say 12 or 15 feet. It was big, right? It's whatever the height is of like the normal overhang in a shopping center. The foot and the head was bumping against the ceiling in the overhang. And he had it permanently mounted outside with obviously the fan running. And then he had like a newspaper box type of holder, you know, permanently drilled into the concrete with literature that then had the cover to keep it from getting wet. But I think the bounce house thing is a great idea. And again,
From a liability standpoint, though, you're going to have an additional insurance certificate for that activity,
yes.
and also usually the host of that activity will have something too. But normally the bounce house providers won't rent you the thing unless you have 100% liability on it anyway. So just make sure and insure it. That's all.
Which isn't going to cost much. It's round.
It doesn't cost you anything to have an additional insurance certificate.
Yeah.
One thing you do need to know is that in certain states, that you have to be licensed in order to actually put them out.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, Pennsylvania,
you have to be licensed, you have to send someone to school, and they have to go, and every time you put it up, they have to send a certificate that says it was inspected. So
I know that when we.
We're in the wild, wild west here, you know. We go buy it at Costco and we, you know, just hope that doesn't blow away in the parking lot.
We actually had 4 people that we actually licensed
Yeah.
to do that with us so that we could, no matter where we were.
Yeah, that's great.
We get it done, so.
When we were gonna rent it, they gave us like parameters. They said that it has to be anchored down at so many points and buried. We didn't follow through with it, but they said we would have to sign a piece of paper that we were going to follow all of their protocols.
Right.
Have a specific protocol of how they wanted anchored down and things like that.
Yeah.
But there was no certification, but they did have a procedure.
Yeah. But I will tell you, with like the bounce houses thing, because that had never dawned on me until just recently. And there were like 3 kids that went to the hospital because the wind caught it and blew it like 30 feet across the, you know, an acreage. But other than that, I mean, that's and you're exactly right. You know, now there's a certain age category, right? My 5-year-old, every bounce house he sees, and the 12-year-old's over it, right? But what she likes the bounce house because it keeps her little brother out of her hair, right? Right? I mean, you're at the point that they both of them would, you know, be there in a heartbeat. I'll tell you another cool idea I saw recently here, right down the street. I mean, literally right down the street, there's an ATA school. And it's a mediocre retail location, but they had an open house, and they rented the inflatable dragon slide maze deal that was the length of this room. I took pictures of it. Remember that? It was an inflatable, like, dragon maze, and they had it down the entire side of the parking lot, and they were having a big, like, student picnic open house type of deal, but you couldn't drive within, you know, 5 blocks of this place without seeing the dragon. Right, and you know, God knows, probably cost them, you know, $1,000 total for the weekend. I mean, it couldn't have been even that probably, right? But it was literally the entire length of. I mean, it'd be perfect for you. You know, all the other merchants would bitch all high hell, but who cares, right? You know, they can complain on Monday after you've done 400 leads. Same thing for Westminster, right out there on Federal over the weekend, and none of the others will be open anyway, so who cares? But it was a great idea, and again, it was predicated on they were doing a big open house for their students and their friends, and they had all this stuff in the parking lot for a barbecue, but the visual impact was dramatic, right? So if you're at an event or a fair or something like that, and you can let them have you do a bouncy house, and you know, I would in a heartbeat drop the $3,000 and go buy the martial arts looking dojo thing. I don't. I'll try to track down. Do you remember who that supplier is?
No, but I don't know if I like that. Because what do they think when they get in it? They get to kick and punch each other? I'm not sure if I'm crazy.
No, he had it set up where they were doing birthday parties in it, and they had it set up where, like, it looked like a school inside. I mean, it was really cool. It was one of the few new things I've seen in years that I liked. I went, that I like. All this other crap, yeah.
It's useful, by the way, with those types of things, in any kind of like booth model, if they're participating in some kind of an activity, it is really useful to have some kind of a sign that mentions that it's free.
Yeah.
Because, you know, a lot of those things, you know, it's like $10 to throw the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever it is. It's useful if that.
Yeah, I would have the sign the size of that back wall that says free.
You
Yeah.
have that unspoken objection that keeps them from coming over. So.
Yeah. That you know, they think they had to go buy tickets to give to that for, you know, like everything else. Anybody get any ideas yet? Okay. So who else has had something we haven't talked about so far that was your primary home run last 3 months?
The summer day camps, single day camps.
Okay.
Yeah, how many of those did you end up doing? Last time we talked, I think you had just 2.
About 6.
Okay, cool.
About 6, we put the 200 through the doors.
Yeah.
And with that 200 through the doors, I took the booth idea of the spinning wheel. Now, every single one of them, during one set of what we were doing, won that booth spin. And every single one of them either won a birthday party, pizza party, or 2 free classes, or 2 weeks free. Okay, and then of course the follow-up from there. But it's really, we took something we did in a long time, a lot of years, and gotten not much out of it, and got a lot more out of it. And we're just touching the hairline, and we're not even really deep.
Yeah, wait till next year. You got all the ones that you did this year. The stuff with the summer stuff is so awesome because all the relationships you created this year, you still have them next year.
Well, that's the other thing.
And
Now
you
I have the
stack on
daycare
those.
center that I'm going, which is also a private school rather, an elite private school in our area. Well, as you said, now they have all my forms filled out. They come to me with the forms filled out ahead of time and such, and they do it the right way.
Okay, tell me what you mean by single-day day camps.
Single-day day camps, meaning daycare centers, private schools, they do camps, okay?
Right.
So they're always looking where they should go and what they should do.
Right.
With that said, I contacted them and say, listen, with your camps, for one of your days, would you like to come to Hunsinger's Karate, bus it over to Hunsinger's Karate? Okay, we could fit 45, but we'll fit 60 kids safely, okay?
Yeah.
And we'll staff it appropriately, and it's all free of charge, okay? Actually, no, I charge them $7 a piece. Okay, I charge them $7 a piece, it actually was better. The parents took it a little more seriously.
Right.
I didn't need the money, I wanted them to be serious about it, okay? And they're different age groups, some of them booked 2 times, some of them booked 3 times. Actually, I had 3 different age groups is what we had, okay? And they now look forward to that every year, and every year you can say, well, it's the same old kids. Well, we get a lot of the same old kids, which is still good, but we also get the new ones that go up as well. And I've been doing that kind of myself, going to the school for the past 13 years, getting nothing out of it, absolutely nothing out of it, until our meetings last year and such. Well, my one-on-ones with Toby, he's really, I said, tell me what to get, how I could get more out of it.
Talk to everybody about how you set that up. How did you get that to get
The
started?
best thing I have going for me is my wife is the director of the studio, okay? But I also taught at the studio for 13 years. I taught martial arts.
Okay, so you don't have anything to do with your business, so, but what does she do?
Okay. Honestly, I did contact, okay? I did contact by saying, I understand who the people that are in charge of the different age groups are, and I make the phone call to the person that answers the phone, and I tell them to direct me to the different age groups of those that are interested in scheduling their day camps, and give them my contact number, and I don't even have to worry about it because they know me well. So honestly, I tell them flat out that I am booking up the day camps. This has to happen early spring. I've learned that if you wait until the tail end of spring, it's too late. They're booking their day camps in February, March, okay? If you attack it then, you get much bigger results. And then by April-ish, they have answers of where they want you to book with you, okay? Possibly May at the latest. But by May, you're booking what they're going to come to you with. And, you know, they may be coming to you for one day. What I really like about it is only one day, and it's not a full day. What do we do, an hour and a half?
2 hours.
2 hours. 2 hours, that's it. It's what they call a day camp. 2 hours, it's a piece of cake. I mean, you're sweating, you're tired, but you're glad they're gone. But when they're gone, what you've received is unbelievable. Unbelievable, okay? You really have to produce, you really have to put out. And I systemize it where they're walking in the door, from the time they're walking in the door, they're going and lining up properly and lining up directly, so they do a repetitive drill in lines. You do your drill here, you go to the back. You do your drill here, you go to the back. And then I utilize the staff to keep them in their
What were you doing to make sure you got lead capture?
Lead capture was, okay, we've all gone through whatever the technique it may be, the back fist, reverse punch drill, the jump front kick drill. And we're going to now, I got a lot of quiet people here, I need to see who could show their confidence with the word I, which is the key I, okay? And I'm going to decide which one of these 2 groups wins here, which one of these 2 groups wins here. And somebody wins on this one, when you win, you get to spin the wheel. Go see Miss Suzanne and whoever's back.
Oh, I see, I see,
they're gonna
okay,
spin the wheel,
okay.
And that takes time up, I just forget about them. When they're done spinning the wheel, they come back, somebody else is winning. and we
Was
start
the daycare giving you the list on the way in the door?
The daycare brings their whole box with them, okay? They give
Right.
us the forms. and
Okay,
when the daycare travels.
okay, yeah, don't miss that point. So on the way in, the parents had already signed release forms for the karate thing, which has all their contact information. You're getting release forms for everybody right then and
They're
there.
walking in with our release form filled out. Now, with that
Were you
said,
calling mom while they're there at the school?
No, that's what this was.
Yeah, right, yeah.
I put down
Yeah,
genius
yeah,
on that.
yeah, yeah.
Because that was your question on what do we do with all this now? And I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm in the same boat, okay? With that said, one group came this year and they walked in with 2 forms and they said, well, they were all here last year. I was really pissed off, okay? I didn't let them know, but But then I got a hold of the director back at that place and said, that's not gonna cut it.
No.
They can't come in, I just simply blame my insurance company.
Oh, yeah.
My insurance company doesn't allow them to come in unless it's filled out.
Yeah.
And we rolled it.
Paul
But
is,
everybody won, and they all loved it, and we got a lot of instantaneous calls from that, and we assigned some people up. We also have a lot of hot leads with that, and now we have our warm leads.
right,
And of course, we've done what you said.
yeah.
We let them sit too long. We need to keep going on that part.
Paul, do you manage to ever get synergy with the other camp providers